A few weeks ago, I did the first impression unboxing video of this 507, SCH507 from Schrade, a really nice stonewash knife. Now I'm ready to do the full review on this knife. It's a knife that I've carried for a while, and I've come to enjoy it quite a bit. And I'd like to share with you my findings that I found on this knife. So without further ado, I'm going to go into the tabletop mode and we'll take a... And so without further ado, we're going to go to the tabletop mode and we're going to take a good close look at this knife together. Stick around. And I want to announce the winner for the 15 to 20 best of draw. It is... I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, Nick. It's Ricky. Sorry about that. Thank you for playing along and for sharing the video, and send me an email and I'll get that knife off to you. So we're looking at the SCH507. I've been enjoying this knife actually almost for a month now. And to cut straight to the chase, I do really like this knife. I like it an awful lot. That's not to say it's perfect, because it isn't, but I really do like this knife. Let's get into some of the specs first, and then we'll move on. This knife, the total length is 7 3/4 inches. That's about 20 centimeters. And the cutting edge length, that's from the tip of the blade up till right about there, that is 3 1/4 inches, right around 8.3 centimeters. And the length of the handle is about 4 1/2 inches, about 11.5 centimeters, actually just a little bit above both of those numbers. So what do we got here? We've got a clip point blade. You can see that clip coming down. Almost half of the blade is a clip, not quite. You got a nice wedge there. Big belly, slight recurve, a nice little choil there so that the end of the blade can be sharpened good. We've got a hollow grind, stonewash. We've got the Schrade, the logo pressed into the steel. When it was at the soft, when it was soft, I'm sure they pressed that in there, and including the model number right there. You've got steel liners, and then we've got aluminum scales. And on these aluminum scales, we've got G10 on the left side, and on the right side, we've got a steel pocket clip. We've got some designs on this aluminum and stuff. We've got a lanyard hole down here, a lanyard slot, if you will. A little bit of jimping on the liner release right there for the liner lock. We've got a short little flipper arm and some jimping up top there, some jimping at the back, and some jimping back here. The detent is nice on this knife. The detent holds the knife in pretty good. That helps the flipping action a little bit. If the detent wasn't that strong, you'd have to really give the thing a good wrist action to make the blade come out. But the detent's fair on it. And that allows you to flip it open with just a little bit of wrist action, which is nice. I can do it with my right and left hand pretty well, using the, not the light switch mode, but the pressure, the push down on it mode. And that works pretty good. Let's talk about some of the details of this knife. First, the looks of it. If you just look at the general styling of this knife, I like it. I think it looks quite strong. It looks tough. I need to fix the color on this. This is just not quite right. There we go. Is that better, guys? I think that's better. So you can see this knife, that it looks really, like I was saying, it looks masculine. It looks kind of sharp. Sharp in the sense of it looks cool. It looks, looks like it's a nice knife to carry. I really am fond of Blackwash, and that's sort of what drew me to this knife in the first place. I picked it up from Amazon.ca, and I'll put a link in the description below for my fellow Canadians to buy it. It's got a lot of little things going for it. And I like the way this knife cuts. The hollow grind works really well. It's got a nice cutting edge. And the fact that it's got 9Cr18MoV steel makes this edge good and strong. It keeps its edge for quite a long while. It's not very hard to sharpen, but you do have to focus when you're sharpening it. You have to take your time and do a good job of it. And it works really well. It beats 8Cr13MoV hands down, no problem. It's much closer to the equivalent of a 440C, something like that. So 9Cr18MoV is a good Chinese steel. I like 8Cr13MoV a fair bit too, but the 9Cr18 is even better. The G10 looks good, and it's got just that added amount of grip that I like, which makes it feel really secure in the hand. These three fingers are grabbing right in this area where there's a lot of different texture, and it feels nice in the hand. Although a lot of you don't really like liner locks for left-handed guys, but as you can see, I can make it work for a left-handed guy too. Yeah, it works in the left hand. It's comfortable. It's nice. I like it. It's a good knife. It's got a lot of flat area here if you've got the kind of system that clamps on to sharpen. It's a decent knife that way. I really don't have an awful lot that I want to say about this knife. Let's do some cutting tests on it. I've got some banding here, that 1-inch banding that I cut every once in a while to demonstrate. See, it just slides through that, no problem at all. And it's a good edge on this knife. And I like cutting with it. It cuts this heavy wire as well. You've seen that on other videos. There's all kinds of stuff. If I zoom a little closer, there you go. You can see that this wire has got all kinds of stuff inside of it, so it is kind of hard to cut through. There you go. Now that it's focused, it cuts through this, no problem at all. See, I'm cutting through so hard, it's just digging out this tabletop. It's a decent knife. It cuts well. It looks good doing it. The lockup on this is kind of hard to see. Well, maybe not in this light, but the lockup is focused. There you go. You can see the lockup right there is still fairly early. It's before the halfway point, and that's what I like on a brand new knife. I've had some knives recently that I bought brand new where the liner lock's going right over, and that's not a good thing at all. This one's quite good. I like it. There's the nutshell overview of this knife. If I knew what I know now before buying this knife, would I buy it again? Yes, I think I would. Let's go over the pros and then the cons. The pros. I like the thumb studs on this knife. I showed you just opening it with the flipper. With the thumb stud, it opens really well, but that's not the biggest benefit of the thumb stud. It's how far back it is. If you're slicing through some food, it's just about in line with the front of the handle here. You're not going to have the food catch on this thumb stud. Some knives have the thumb stud come out way too far, and then the food comes and it, touches that thumb stud, and you can't push through. A lot of food, it doesn't matter, but cutting through an apple or some other firm kind of thing, it'll catch on the thumb stud, and I don't like that. So number one that I really like is the thumb stud placement on this. What else do I like? I like this recurve. It's enough of a recurve to really help you cut, but not so much of a recurve that it hinders sharpening. Number three, I like the detent. The detent's not too weak, and it's not super strong either. It's strong enough that I can still use the flipper without going too hard with my arm. So the flipper does work. You can see that I'm not doing a really hard flick thing, but I do have to focus on flipping. I would like the flipper arm to be slightly bigger, but the detent is certainly adequate for flipping. Number four, what do I like? I like this G10. It's not a whole lot of G10. It's just enough. The accent's made really good. I like the look of it, and I like how it feels. Number five, what do I like about this knife? Just the overall general feel in my hand. I like that. It feels good. It's comfortable. It doesn't get hot in my hand when I'm using it. And the only thing that does slightly is, I'm going to get to the first con, is I'm not too fond of this pocket clip. If it does get hot in my hand, it can slightly get a little bit hot right there. The other con about this pocket clip is that it's such a shallow pocket clip, I should say. We've got, if I go in standard measurements, an inch of handle sticking out of your pocket. I don't like that much sticking out of my pocket. I don't mind half an inch. You know, I prefer really ultra deep, to be honest with you. I don't mind about half an inch. A full inch, I'm not fond of. This knife, I would probably turn into a pocket dropper. Just take the pocket clip off completely, just drop it into my pocket, and when I want it, take it out and use it. Or the other way, and I know this turns me into an old fart, I like to use pouches. I know. Yeah, I do use pouches for my knives. That being said, remember my context. I'm living in rural Alberta, not too far from the mountains. You know, I'm not in a city. I'm not in an urban center. You know, I'm in a small town, well, a town of about 9,000 people, and in a farming community. So I wear a pouch with my knife quite often. It's too heavy. These are aluminum handle scales, but we've got steel liners right inside here. Schrade, I would like it if you make this knife again, skeletonize the liners a little bit, help this thing lose a little weight, because it is 5.2 ounces, 147 grams. The other thing, one other thing that I'd like this flipper arm just to do something with it, make it slightly bigger. It doesn't feel quite right on the finger. Sometimes my finger feels a little bit like it's a hot spot when I'm engaging the flipper arm. It doesn't always feel right. It feels a little bit hot on my finger. You can almost see it right there, the little dent right there on my finger. And finally, I think this has to do with the washers in this knife. I don't prefer the nylon washers. I think, and I'm not a blade designer, I don't know this for a fact, if you had phosphor bronze washers, you might not get this little bit of blade play. I've got a little bit of back and forth blade play. I think it's because of those washers. If I tighten up the pivot anymore, I can't do the flipping to flip the knife open. So I have to make that little bit of a compromise. I think the nylon washers are that little bit of softness that allow that little bit of blade play. So, all things considered, everything being said, I like this knife. I'm going to definitely keep this and play with this knife and use it and carry it. It's a knife that I enjoy. I'm a sucker for Blackwash. It's a good-looking knife. It's a keeper for me. If you like this video, please go ahead and click on like, share it with your friends. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for being a friend of mine on this channel. And remember, always cut towards your chum and not your thumb. Bye now.